Hey everyone, it's Mike with On Point Preparedness. Got some updates for you guys on the Synod, the Pope, and this extraordinary year of Jubilee that he's going to usher in, as well as some current news events that really stuck out on my news feed. But before I get into any of that, I just want to offer a very sincere thank you because there was just an incredible broad amount of support from my subscribers in my last video. I was actually anticipating quite the opposite response, and was going to basically trudge through it because, like I said, there's just an amazing convergence of things happening, and I feel very compelled to be doing what I'm doing. So thank you all for that. It really means a lot to me. And again, really wasn't expecting it, so it was a pleasant surprise. So to get on with the news events of today, I'm really enjoying this Ronald Conte blog here, because he's really giving some good perspective on what's happening in the Synod. And he's a staunch supporter of the Pope and the Vatican, so I'm not saying that I agree with him, but it's a good source of information nonetheless. And I figured I'd start with this because many of you may not even know what the Synod is, and he sums it up pretty well here. A Synod does not issue infallible canons like a ecumenical council. Instead, it's an advisory council. So when the bishops all met and they basically had this 3-week-long contentious meeting, this was to design, develop, and approve a document of suggestions to the Pope. And so he says down here, I believe Francis will issue controversial decisions on doctrine and discipline soon, including loosening rules for communion. And, as I mentioned in this individual's last blog, he talked about the 24 shocking possibilities that may change with regards to Catholic doctrine or discipline. 2 of the most prevalent is that everyone can be saved without turning to Christ, which again, I think, even though timing is off, I'm very keen on the fact that we need to watch the Pope and see what he's doing, see what he says. And if he really does issue that doctrinal change of you don't need to turn to Christ in order to be saved, the power and position that he holds and saying that statement of authority, wow, that's got heavy weight in both the physical and spiritual realms. So do watch out for that event. Who knows when it's going to come? He's saying soon. Really not sure when soon is, but again, we have this extraordinary Jubilee session coming up on December 8th. Is he going to wait that long? Not sure. So we just have to keep tabs on this guy. So what did he say at the end of this synod? Well, he had Mass on Sunday morning. And if you actually look at the transcripts of the homily from the Pope on what he said, he's really taking stabs at all the conservative bishops. In fact, here's an article. He's saying Pope lectures Catholic elders at closing of the Synod of the Family. If you actually look at the transcripts, the official transcripts, again, Vatican Radio, with the birth pains video I did, this is also a sight to watch because just because of the language they use, that was carefully crafted to talk about a woman being in labor and comparing it to the Synod, and this is like birth pangs in comparison, with the symbolism of Jesus saying that we're in the birth pangs during the first half of the tribulation. So another good site to really keep your eye on because they're linked in with this somehow. I'm sure any of my subscribers that are women and who've given birth to children probably take large assault at these people claiming that the Synod of all these old grumpy men arguing with each other is the same as them going through labor. But anyways, what I found interesting in his homily is he's picking apart some scripture. I think in Mark, Bartimaeus, the blind man who was calling out to Jesus to ask to be healed so that he can see, and many people were ignoring him, but Jesus did not. And so again, he's saying there are, however, some temptations for those who follow Jesus. Sort of interesting wording here, but again, he's said lots of interesting things. And he says the gospel shows us at least 2 of them. And he says None of the disciples stopped for this blind man, but Jesus did. And he's making this comparison to these conservative bishops, to these elders, saying that you're too strictly following Jesus and we need to stop and be open to everyone. It's basically in line with everything he's been saying. Is, according to this article, the Pope's parting message to Synod fathers talks about how his whole papacy has been focused on mercy. And so since he took his election as Pope on March 13, 2013, he took on special significance this Sunday, the day after the Synod approved a final document that is centered on the theme of mercy and gives the Pope leeway to apply this mercy at his discretion. And it goes in to say, when he first announced the extraordinary Jubilee Year of Mercy, Pope Francis linked it directly to the Synod of the Family. He will open the Jubilee year at St. Peter's physically by opening the doors himself on December 8th. He wants it to be an occasion in which pastors throughout the world can show God's mercy. So what is this? From the start of his papacy to this Synod on the Family and mercy to this extraordinary year of Jubilee and mercy, it really is looking like, just as what this theologian Ronald Conte said, is basically mercy applies to all. It is through Christ's mercy that everyone is saved, even if you do not turn to him. So it's really looking like that's going to be the message here. I'm not sure if the doctrinal or discipline changes will occur at this event, but we'll keep a watchful eye. Some other weird things, I talked about how there was civil war at the Vatican. They were saying civil war, synod, and all this stuff. There was this weird article saying Pope Francis' enemies inside the church leaked a false story that he had a brain tumor. Enraged Vatican says. Really strange stuff going on there. So again, all eyes on the Pope, all eyes on the Vatican, because this is the mother of abominations, and he is the false prophet, and he's the one that leads us to perdition. Been saying it many times over. So enough with the Pope, enough with the Vatican. There's not much more that I can update you guys with regards to this. So going on to the current news stories that really stuck out to me. This one, which was posted on Drudge and is originally from Zero Hedge. Overstock holds 3 months of food, $10 million in gold for employees in preparation for the next collapse. The CEO, or the chairman, Jonathan Johnson, has this quote, and it's pretty damning. We're not big fans of Wall Street, and we don't trust them. And so we saw these financial crises that happened in 2008 and that are coming up soon. So what do we do as a business to be prepared when that happens? Well, because they're in Utah and they, basically can use that gold-backed system that they have there, we have about $10 million in gold, mostly small button-sized coins. And they're keeping that so that they can pay their employees in the event of a crash. And then Zero Hedge has it bolded here. We also have 3 months of food supply for every employee that we can live on. I mean, come on. These are some pretty powerful statements coming out from Overstock's chairman. Whew. What else we got here? The Long March, again, refugees just pouring out in just the thousands all over Europe. This isn't slowing down at all. This is pretty crazy. But then, headed back to Israel, I thought this was sort of funny. Kerry came out with that announcement yesterday talking about how, we fixed Israel's problems. We're going to install cameras at Temple Mount and just uphold the deal in which Jerusalem or Jews will not pray at Temple Mount. It'll be reserved for the Muslims. Of course, it failed. So there was another 2 stabbings that happened, and the violence just keeps on going. So, sorry, Kerry, your ideas of putting cameras up on Temple Mount in order to create transparency and assign blame, no, that's not going to work. Even if there is a stabbing caught completely on video and it blames the Palestinians, basically the UN and the Palestinians are going to say, well, he was provoked. That's why he stabbed him. He had good reason to stab him. That's not going to work. This is not going to work. So we are likely to see this situation in Israel just continue to escalate. But that's all I had for this Sunday at 11:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the 25th. Until I get some more news, I will see you guys next time.